Stop the wedding. She's been kidnapped. My father's voice boomed through the small chapel as he burst through the doors, two police officers following close behind. I stood at the altar, still holding Marcus's hands, and felt a calm smile spread across my face. Perfect timing, I whispered to my soon-to-be husband. Ready for the show? My name is Sofia Martinez, and at 26, I was about to teach my controlling father the most important lesson of his life. The fact that he'd brought cops to my secret wedding, well, that just made everything easier. That's him, my father shouted, pointing dramatically at Marcus. He's brainwashed my daughter. She would never marry without my permission. The smaller chapel we'd chosen for our intimate ceremony erupted into chaos. Our 30 guests, close friends and Marcus's family, turned in their seats, watching the scene unfold. Marcus's mother started to rise, but I gave her a subtle shake of my head. This was all part of the plan. Officers, I said clearly, my voice carrying through the chapel. I assume my father reported me missing. The older officer stepped forward, looking uncomfortable in the formal setting. Yes, ma'am. Mr. Martinez filed a kidnapping report this morning. He claims your boyfriend has been manipulating you and forced you into this marriage. I nodded, reaching for my purse that my maid of honor quickly handed to me. I thought he might try something like this. That's why I came prepared. My father's triumphant expression faltered slightly as I pulled out a thick manila envelope. Sofia, what are you doing? My job, Dad. Or should I say, Detective Martinez. I turned to the officers. I'm sure my father used his position in the police force to convince you to crash my wedding, but did he show you these? I handed them the envelope, watching as they examined its contents. Inside was everything I'd collected over the past year. Documentation of my father's abuse of power, records of him using police resources to track my movements, statements from my friends about his harassment, and most damaging of all, proof that he'd threatened Marcus's family with false criminal investigations if they didn't convince Marcus to leave me. This is nonsense. My father sputtered, his face turning that dangerous shade of red I remembered from childhood. She's confused, obviously manipulated. I'm a criminal defense attorney, Dad. I cut him off. Remember, the career you said would ruin your reputation. Turns out it came in handy. The officers were flipping through the documents, their expressions growing increasingly serious. The older one spoke into his radio, requesting a supervisor. You're making a huge mistake, my father warned, taking a step toward me. Marcus moved protectively closer, but I placed a hand on his arm. No, Dad, you made the mistake. Did you really think I wouldn't document everything? Every threatening phone call, every illegal background check you ran on Marcus, every time you showed up at my office to intimidate my colleagues. The younger officer cleared his throat. Mr. Martinez, these allegations are serious. If these documents are authentic, they are, I assured him. And there's more where that came from, including footage from today, where I'm clearly here of my own free will, about to marry the man I love. I gestured to the discreet cameras we'd set up around the chapel, another precaution we'd taken, knowing my father wouldn't let me go without a fight. You planned this, my father said, realization dawning on his face. You knew I'd come. Of course I did. You've never been able to handle losing control. When I moved out last year, you had me followed. When I got engaged, you tried to have Marcus fired from his job. Did you really think I'd announce my wedding date and location just to have you ruin it? The real wedding invitation had gone out to a select group of trusted friends and family. Everyone else received a fake date and location, a decoy to keep my father's attention focused elsewhere. But I knew he'd eventually figure it out. He always did. My father's face shifted from anger to something else, fear. For the first time, he was realizing that his daughter had outmaneuvered him. Sofia, please, he tried, his voice softer now. I'm just trying to protect you. No, Dad, you're trying to control me. There's a difference. I turned to the officers. I'd like to file a formal complaint against Detective Martinez for abuse of power and harassment. All the evidence is in that envelope, and my firm will be following up tomorrow. The chapel doors opened again as two more officers entered, higher-ranking ones based on their uniforms. My father's face went pale. Captain Anderson, he stammered. I can explain. Save it for internal affairs. Martinez, the captain cut him off, having clearly reviewed the situation with his officers. For now you're leaving, and if you ever use department resources for personal matters again, you'll be turning in your badge. As they led my father out, he turned back one last time. Sofia, you're making a mistake. The only mistake was letting you control my life for so long. I replied calmly. Goodbye, Dad. After they left, the chapel was silent for a moment. Then Marcus squeezed my hand, and I saw nothing but pride and love in his eyes. That, he said with a smile, was incredibly hot. A laugh rippled through our guests, breaking the tension. Marcus's mother was crying happy tears, and my best friend Amy, who'd helped orchestrate the whole plan, was giving me a thumbs up from her spot as maid of honor. Now, I said, turning back to our officiant who had watched the whole scene with remarkable composure, where were we? But as we resumed our vows, I knew this wasn't over. My father had never taken defeat gracefully, and I had no doubt he was already planning his next move. That's why I had one more surprise waiting, a fail-safe he'd never see coming. As Marcus slipped the ring on my finger, I caught Amy's eye and nodded slightly. She pulled out her phone, sending a pre-prepared message. Phase 2 was now in motion. My father thought bringing the police to my wedding was his trump card. He had no idea that I'd just played mine. The reception was in full swing when Amy rushed over to our table, her phone displaying multiple news notifications. "It's working," she whispered, showing me the screen. "Every major news outlet in the city has picked up the story." I smiled, taking a sip of champagne. The headlines were exactly what we'd anticipated. Senior detective crashes daughter's wedding, faces internal investigation. Police abuse of power, detective uses department resources to stalk daughter. Local attorney exposes police corruption at her own wedding. Marcus read over my shoulder, whistling softly. "Your father's going to lose it when he sees these." "That's the point," I replied, squeezing his hand. "He cares more about his reputation than anything else. Now everyone knows exactly who he is." The story we'd leaked to the press was carefully crafted, not just about today's events, but about years of systematic abuse of power. My father had used his position to control not just me, but countless others. Former boyfriend, who'd mysteriously lost jobs, or faced bogus investigations. Friends who'd been harassed with random traffic stops. Even my mother, before she passed away, had lived under his constant surveillance. My phone buzzed, a message from Dad: "Take it down, now, or else." "Or else what?" I murmured, showing Marcus the text. "He has nothing left to threaten us with." As if on cue, Amy's phone rang. She answered, listened briefly, then grinned. "The captain just suspended him pending investigation. They're collecting his badge and gun tonight." I should have felt sad, seeing my father's career implode. Instead, I felt relieved. For the first time in my life, I was truly free. The DJ announced the father-daughter dance, but instead of the traditional song, a video started playing on the large screen we'd set up. It showed clips of my father's abuse of power, all legally obtained through public records requests and witness statements. Each incident was dated, documented, and damning. "Is this really necessary?" Marcus asked softly, as our guests watched in shocked silence. "Yes," I replied, standing up. "Because it's not just about me anymore. It's about every person he's ever bullied or threatened. They deserve to know they're finally safe." Just then, the chapel doors burst open again. My father stood there, face purple with rage, clutching his phone. "You think you can humiliate me like this?" he roared. "I made you who you are." Security moved to intercept him, but I held up my hand. "No, let him speak. Let everyone hear what he has to say." He stormed toward our table, news articles displayed on his phone. "Take these down, or you'll what, Dad? Run another illegal background check. Have your officers harass more innocent people? Your badge is gone. Your power is gone. All you have left is the truth about who you really are." The room was dead silent, everyone watching our confrontation. Even the DJ had stopped the music. "I protected you," he insisted, but his voice was weaker now. "Everything I did was to keep you safe." "Safe," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Was Mom safe when you had officers following her every move, until the stress contributed to her heart attack? Were my friends safe when you threatened their families? Was Marcus safe when you tried to destroy his career?" Each accusation hit him like a physical blow. He stumbled back, looking around the room at the faces of our guests, faces that showed not sympathy, but recognition. How many of them had suffered similarly at his hands? "The worst part," I continued, my voice clear and steady, "is that you actually believe you were protecting me. But protection doesn't require control, Dad. Love doesn't require submission." "I'm your father," he whispered, a last desperate claim to authority. "No," I replied gently. "You're a bully with a badge, or at least you were. Now you're just a bully." Security finally stepped forward, escorting him out. This time, he didn't resist. As the doors closed behind him, I felt Marcus's arms wrap around me. You okay? He asked. I nodded, watching as Amy directed the DJ to resume the party music. I'm perfect, but we should probably leave for our honeymoon tonight, instead of tomorrow, just in case. He laughed, pulling me onto the dance floor. Already arranged. Your go bag is in the car, and our flight leaves in 3 hours. As we danced, I caught glimpses of my phone lighting up with messages from other officers' children sharing similar stories, from journalists wanting interviews, from advocacy groups fighting police corruption. My father's reign of terror had ended, but its impact was just beginning to ripple outward. You know, Marcus said as he spun me around, when I fell in love with you, I had no idea I was marrying a revolutionary. I laughed, resting my head on his shoulder. When I fell in love with you, I finally found the strength to be one. The night was far from over, and I knew there would be consequences to face when we returned. But for now, surrounded by love and free from fear, I was exactly where I needed to be. And somewhere across the city, my father was finally learning what it felt like to be powerless. 3 weeks later, Marcus and I returned from our honeymoon in Bali, to find our world had shifted dramatically. The story of my father's abuse of power had snowballed into a full-scale investigation of the entire police department. Dozens of officers were under scrutiny, and more victims were coming forward daily. My office voicemail was full of messages, some threatening, many supportive, but one stood out. It was from my father's partner of 15 years. Sophia, your father. He's not doing well. He's been drinking, talking crazy. Yesterday he turned in his resignation. I think he's planning something. I played the message for Marcus as we unpacked. Should we be worried? Before he could answer, our doorbell rang. Through the security camera, we saw my father standing there swaying slightly. He looked decades older than when we'd last seen him, his clothes wrinkled, his face haggard. Let me handle this, I told Marcus, grabbing my phone to record. Old habits die hard. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Dad, they're destroying everything, he slurred. My career, my reputation, my whole life. Are you happy now? You destroyed those things yourself, I replied calmly. I just exposed the truth. He leaned against the doorframe, and for a moment I saw something break in his eyes. Why couldn't you just be the daughter I wanted? Because I was busy becoming the woman I needed to be. I studied him carefully. Why are you here? He reached into his jacket, and Marcus stepped forward protectively. But my father only pulled out an old photograph. It showed me at age 6, sitting on his shoulders at a parade. We were both smiling. Remember this? He asked, his voice cracking. Before you turned against me, before I grew up, I finished. Before I stopped being something you could control. That little girl in the photo deserved a father, not a dictator. I gave you everything, except freedom, I said softly, except the right to make my own choices, live my own life, love who I wanted to love. He crumpled the photo in his fist. I've lost everything because of you. No, Dad, you lost everything because you couldn't accept that I wasn't your possession. The investigation, the suspension, the resignation, those are consequences of your actions, not my revenge. They're calling me corrupt, he spat. A dirty cop, weren't you? I challenged. Using police resources to stalk your daughter, threatening innocent people. What would you call that? He slumped against the wall, suddenly looking very small. I don't know how to be anything else. Then learn, I said firmly. Get help. Deal with whatever made you think love means control. Because this, I gestured to his disheveled state, this isn't hurting me anymore. It's only destroying you, Sophia, he started, but I cut him off. No, Dad, I'm done. The department is investigating you. More victims are coming forward. Whatever happens next is out of my hands. I stepped back inside. Get help, or don't. But either way, stay away from me and my family. As I closed the door, he called out one last time. I did love you, you know, in my way. I know, I replied. That's what makes it so sad. Through the security camera, we watched him stumble back to his car where his partner was waiting. They'd clearly anticipated he might do something drastic. Marcus hugged me from behind. You okay? Yeah, I said, surprising myself by meaning it. I think I finally am. Later that night, as we sorted through honeymoon photos, my phone buzzed with a news alert. My father had checked himself into a rehabilitation facility, citing stress and alcohol abuse. The article mentioned he was cooperating fully with internal affairs. Think he's really changing? Marcus asked. I shrugged, setting down my phone. Maybe, but that's his journey now, not mine. And what's your journey? I showed him my laptop screen, where I'd been drafting a proposal for a new division at my law firm, one focused specifically on helping victims of institutional abuse and corruption. My journey is making sure no other daughter has to outsmart her father just to say I do to the person she loves. Marcus smiled, kissing my forehead. You know, when I married you, I thought I was getting a wife. Turns out I got a superhero. I laughed, closing my laptop. Not a superhero, just a girl who finally learned that the strongest weapon against control is living well, loving freely, and telling the truth. Outside, the city was changing. The police department was under reform, victims were finding their voices, and somewhere in a rehabilitation facility, my father was facing his demons. But here, in our home, with the man I chose, and the life I fought for, I was exactly where I belonged. Sometimes the happy ending isn't riding off into the sunset. Sometimes it's standing your ground, speaking your truth, and building something better from the ashes of what you had to burn down. And that's an ending worth fighting for.